Hello and welcome. Aquarister here, coming to you with another video, and today we are going to be looking at another build, more specifically a PvP healing build utilizing the hammer that I always like to run with my healing builds. So I still do, for PvE, I still run hammer as well as Void Gauntlet for dungeons, but mostly in the open world, and then now PvP. If I'm healing, I'm going to have a hammer in my hands. I just have the most fun with it. I like to peel for the backline, all of that. But let's take a look at the gear that I've been getting together and maybe get some ideas of how this build can be played. All right, so taking a look at the gear here, we'll start with the weapons actually, because this is actually the same as what I've ran in my PvE build video that I've posted before. So I am running the Glowing Life Crystal Staff. I still really like Refreshing Divine Embrace, Refreshing Move Blessed, all that. And I am running an Arboreal Rune Glass in there, so it does inflict the extra poison. I get a 12% damage buff, as well as the outgoing healing. So it's a slight nerf to the healing, but really I think the damage difference is really nice with the way we're playing it. And then this is the hammer that I'm currently using. I am planning on crafting more hammers that will have Sundering Shockwave, and then I'm thinking Arboreal Attunement. I just haven't gotten around quite yet to crafting that, and this is a really good hammer for how we're using it and stuff, so I haven't really gone out of my way to try to change that because this has worked so well. So those are the weapons. I am running the Arboreal Amber in there, so then it converts the damage, plus I'm also getting that nature damage on top of it. Rune Glass or Heart Rune. I'm wearing Cannon Blast currently. You can kind of run whatever you feel like is most useful to you. Detonate, Vines. Most of them are going to work. I just really like the Cannon Blast. I don't know. I think it's fun. It's just a really fun Heart Rune to use. There probably are better ones for different situations. Detonate and stuff is really solid, but Cannon Blast is just kind of fun. You don't see a ton of people using it, and with the Penetrating Blast, you can really get a lot of people with it. So I do like that. For our armor, I actually just crafted this hat specifically for this build, and I got very lucky crafting it. So we have the Full Focus, Freedom, Resilient, Fortifying Sacred Ground. This is just like a best in slot hat when it comes to PvP healer gear. You have the Full Focus, Fortifying Sacred Ground. Most every single healer should have that. Resilient obviously gives us that critical hit damage reduction, and then Freedom is always good to have, especially with all the roots and stuff in the game. Very good hat. All of my armor does have the Arboreal Rune Glass, so it buffs all of our nature damage by 2% per Rune Glass. So for just the armor alone, that's a 10% buff to our nature damage. That includes the poison as well from our Rune Glass on the weapon, so it is really nice to have that. For chest piece, the chest piece that I have, I may be switching out because I have one stack of Refreshing Evasion and I don't really have any Refreshing Evasion outside of that. So I would recommend maybe going with like just a straight Refreshing. That's really the only change I would make to this chest piece, unless I could find like a Shirking Fortify or something, but I don't really worry too much on that. They're normally pretty expensive to buy and gotta get really lucky to craft it. So this is what I've been running. Like I said, swap out Refreshing Evasion with Refreshing, and very solid chest piece. For the gloves, we have Shirking Fortify, Resilient, Invigorated, 3 very useful perks. Shirking Fortify, though, I won't run unless I have 2 stacks of it at least. So I have 1 stack on my gloves and then 1 stack on my boots for a total of 2, so that's like an 8% fortification buff. Really not that bad. For my pants, I am rocking these. So we have the Refreshing, Vigor, Resilient, 3 very useful perks for a PvP healer. Refreshing, obviously, we get our cooldown reduction, which does apply to our hammer as well, which is nice. And then the Vigor, there's so many burned, bleeds, and poisons out there that it is nice to have that expire a little bit quicker. Plus, we can take our consumables to shorten that even more. And then our boots, Shirking Fortify, Refreshing, Resilient. I got these from an OPR cache. I gotta tell you, OPR loot crates are fantastic. You can get some really good stuff. Like, these boots are very expensive if you were to buy them or craft them or anything like that. and we got them for free just for playing OPR. So very good boots. That is our second stack of Shrinking Fortify. Plus we have the full stacks of Resilient and a couple stacks of Refreshing. So that's my armor set. For jewelry, I'm actually still wearing my same ring, so Hardy Sacred Nature Damage. So you add that 5% nature damage on top of the 10% from the rune glass, and that's a 15% buff to our nature damage as far as our outgoing damage goes. Earring, still wearing the same earring that I wear for PvE, Refreshing Toast, Focused, and Purifying Toast. Purifying Toast I really do like to run because it does allow us to remove like a slow, rend, anything like that, as long as our pot is not on cooldown. And then the one thing that I did change from the PvE healer fit is we're wearing this amulet. So my PvE fit has Health, Divine, and Fortified, which I definitely could use with this build and it would not be bad. But I've been running Purify because that Purify allows me to get out of a couple of sticky situations every minute and a half. So let's say I want to push with the team, push in really deep, all of a sudden I drop below 50% health, I get hit, lose all the debuffs. That's my ticket out. I need to get out of that fight, get safe, get back into the supportive role. So I've really been liking having Purify on it with the way I've been playing. But this is the gear that I'm running. You know, some of it is the same. All the armor is completely different from what we were wearing with the PvE fit. We have the full Resilient. So this is kind of the gear that I am going with for now. Some of it may change over time, but it's been working really well for me so far. Next, let's take a look at the attributes to get kind of an idea of how we're laying that out, and then we'll get into the mastery of the weapons. Taking a look at the attributes, it's a pretty straightforward layout, very similar to the PvE build, only instead of like 117 con, I've been running the 110 and then taking a 40 con food. I do like to get up to at least 150 con because with the 150 con, you do get essentially another Resilient on top of that. So you have 5 stacks of Resilient plus this. Critical hits don't hit you for even close to as much. So I do recommend the 150. It works really well for the survivability aspect of it. I know some healers run a little bit less. I've heard of a few running a little bit more, but 150 seems to be kind of the sweet spot for me as far as what I like. And then everything else just goes into focus. So ideally you'll hit 150 con, everything else focus, and it should work out pretty good for you for the attribute layout. Next, let's take a look over at the weapon mastery and just kind of get an idea of the builds and what I'm running for those. With weapon mastery, I'm really running the same life staff build I always run, so I'll actually put a link in the description below so you can kind of get a direct link to my more life staff specific video. But this is the build that I run for it. You can definitely go more in depth into it in that video that I'm going to link. But this is my go-to healer build. I don't really change it up outside of a few dungeons and stuff like that. Occasionally, if I go full AoE, which is very rare, but if I do, then I'll end up running Beacon. But again, this is my go-to build. I don't really change it past this. So you're more than welcome to copy this or figure out what works best for your healing side of it. But I will say with the Orb of Protection and the Sacred Ground, it is going to help with survivability for sure. Looking at the hammer though, in my PvE hammer video with the rune glass and everything, in that one I'm running Armor Breaker, and the reason for that is because Armor Breaker for PvE is really nice. I can apply rend to a whole group on top of my shockwave. I can use different hammers too. I don't need the Sundering Shockwave if I have Armor Breaker. So for PvE, the Armor Breaker is really nice. For PvP, I haven't liked it as much for this particular build. So instead, this is the build we go with. We go with our Clear Out, Shockwave, and Wrecking Ball, and that will increase your survivability quite a bit. The Clear Out, it does give you a 10% fortification when you hit enemies, and it does give it to your allies as well. But the thing is it's also got Grit. So as a non-300 strength user or strength weapon user, not having 300 strength can be tricky, so you get Grit when you have that. It also does a CC and the Fortify, so although it's not like a huge fortification or anything, when you do all that, it's really nice because it gives you just that 1 or 2 extra seconds to get away from a fight or to jump on someone or anything like that. This build, I do tweak it here and there. For PvP though, I do like to run Aftershock, so then we are applying slows with any of our crowd control effects and stuff like that. We get a little bit of healing back. I'm not going to go overly in depth because I do swap the hammer build around slightly, depending on what I'm up against, depending on what we need. This is my go-to. This is usually what I run, but do not be afraid to take this build and try some different things. If you don't like clear out, or if you don't like any of this going on, definitely branch out, see what works for you. I do highly recommend Wrecking Ball though, as a healer. Main reason being it's an instant 20% fortify. So that's where when you stack a Wrecking Ball with a clear out, that's 30% fortification. And then you add 10% from Orb of Protection and another 10% from your Sacred Ground, and you're at Fortify cap. You know what I mean? So you hit Fortify cap and you're taking 50% less damage if you can do that. So it's a really nice combo that does give you all the fortifies, does increase your survivability. And honestly, sometimes I will go from a Shockwave to Wrecking Ball to Clear Out, and you'll knock everyone around. And if your team collapses, it's great. It's a really fun thing to see. So it does make it for a really, really good time to play with. All right, so that is the hammer build, kind of the mastery. Like I said, feel free to tweak it, see what works for you. This is what is currently working for me, so I'm not really changing it too much, but occasionally I'll tweak a couple perks here and there. But next, that is going to kind of do it for the build. So next, let's look at maybe some footage of the build being used. I played a little bit of OPR, had a little fun with it, and been getting a feel for it. It's very similar to my PvE build in terms of like how I'm going to use it, but the survivability is much better. So let's take a look at some footage and see this build in action. All right, that is going to do it for this one. So thank you to everyone who is watching today. I do appreciate the views, the likes, the subs. All that stuff means a whole lot to me, and it does really help me out a lot when you guys do that, so I do appreciate it. This build I've been working on for a while. I still consider myself a main healer, even though I bounce around the builds all the time. Healing is still what I really love. I can always go back to it, really enjoy it, especially Life Staff and Hammer. This build, you're not going to be pumping out the most damage, and you might not pump out the absolute most heals, but you're going to be peeling for your backline. You'll be bonking people. You'll be hopefully not chasing too many people down, but you do have the capabilities of doing that because of your CC and stuff. You just don't want to go too deep with it, which I tend to do sometimes, but that's what makes the build fun. Please enjoy the build. If you do have any other build ideas or anything that you'd like to see, please leave it in the comments. I do stream on Twitch throughout the week, so we'd love for you to stop by a stream and check out some of the other builds that I run. But for today, that is going to do it for me. So until next time, I'll see you guys later.